Hi, I'm Jim Willenbring. I'm here today with two of my colleagues in the Software Engineering and Research Department at Sandia National Labs. And they submitted white papers describing their experiences with continuous integration testing to the Collegeville 2020 workshop focused on developer productivity for scientific software. CI has certainly become a hot topic for scientific software, and there have been more requirements to produce production quality software and to integrate new versions of software along dependency trees more quickly. I have with me Miranda Mundt and Levine. Miranda, can you share just a little bit about your white paper and maybe one lesson learned that you'd like to highlight from it?
Absolutely. So my white paper, which was also co-authored by Aaron, is called Overcoming Productivity Plateaus, a story of automation tools and developer productivity. It basically tells the story of the team here called Pymo. Pymo, if you've never heard of it, is a Python-based package that's all about optimization modeling. Now, Pymo has always been a big advocate for using CI/CD tools, continuous integration, continuous development. They've been using Travis, AppVeyor, and Jenkins for many years successfully, such that whenever they submit a pull request on their main repository, it gets tested. Once the tests all pass, they can then merge that development into the main repository branch. One of the problems that they've been running into, though, for a while is that they were hitting kind of a bottleneck with all of their development. There's many Pymo developers and contributors all around the world, and anytime that any one of these pull requests was submitted, it would set off these series of tests. And these tests were kind of just ramming into each other due to limitations from Travis, AppVeyor, and Jenkins with compute cycles and whatnot. It went from, on a good day, if you had one person doing development, you could get early results in as little as an hour. On an average day, though, it really took between 4 and 6, which means that our developers were having to submit their things, wait for them to run, and then hopefully they come back and they work. This was not ideal for a lot of reasons. People were switching gears, you maybe forgot that you had to go back and check that, or it took a really long time just to find out that something was broken. At the end of last year, GitHub released their CI/CD tool called GitHub Actions. We decided we would give it a try to see if it could help resolve some of this bottleneck problem that we were running into. As a result, we actually ended up getting great turnaround time for our tests. In fact, we can get early results in as little as 15 minutes now. So you submit your PR and boom, you go get a cup of tea, come back later, and you have your results to your tests. We also, as part of this effort, introduced local branch testing. So you don't even have to submit a PR in order for your test to start going through and see if you're going to start failing things. It's been a great improvement for Pymo's productivity. Been a really great success all the way around, especially because it doesn't look very much different. It acts exactly the same way as they would have expected for all of their other tools. And I think one of the big lessons learned from this is that trying new tools can really help you, but you can also utilize what you already have in order to cut down your time to get your new thing up and running. For example, we were able to use a lot of the logic that existed in AppVeyor and in Travis in order to get our GitHub Actions workflows up and running.
Thanks, Miranda. What would you say was the most challenging aspect of upgrading to use GitHub Actions?
In that case, I think the most challenging aspect was just that it was so new. There wasn't really great documentation yet. It did exist, but they were also making pretty frequent changes to the user interface. They were making pretty frequent changes to their own hosted virtual machines. The newness of that technology really was kind of a stagnator for us for a while until we could get used to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Aaron, can you share just a little about your CI experience and maybe comment in particular about getting the team on board and the cultural aspects of getting them to accept and even welcome CI testing?
Well, sure. My paper was called Navigating the Rapids, Creating a Continuous Integration System for GitHub and Jenkins. And essentially it was developed for the SST team at Sandia. SST is a hardware simulator for designing the next generation high performance computers that runs on the existing generation of high performance computers. And SST was struggling with their code being broken the majority of the time. We were running on Subversion at the moment, and at any time you could check out the code, and about 50% of the time it would be broken. So we realized we needed a CI system. At the time, we didn't really know it was a CI system when we were building it at the time. It was, when we started working on it, it was more of a utility to learn how to use GitHub, which we were moving to. And my experience with that was we were struggling with testing. We had to learn Git, GitHub, and Python all at the same time to bring this system online. That was added a significant challenge to this task. You also had another question about getting the team on board. When we were doing that, the implementing the CI system involves changes to the existing person's workflow. People are naturally resistant to change. It takes a good, strong team lead to recognize the need for the solution and to drive it forward and deal with the complaints that people have, because the whole process is new to them and it changes the way they have to work. However, once we introduce the system, typically it takes a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, and then people are getting comfortable with the new workflow, and then they start to see the benefits. The code is much more stable and their tests are passing.
Yeah, it's that trade-off of getting things in right now versus knowing that things will more likely work for you.
Right.
So Miranda, when you added GitHub Actions for Pyomo CI, you were able to retire one of the 3 tools that you were using. But how do you feel about still needing to support 3 tools and the trade-offs between the different feature offerings that you outline in your white paper and the maintenance that is required for maintaining the 3 different tools?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking, Jim. So one of the really beneficial things that actually came out of our GitHub Actions experiment, as we basically called it, was we were able to write a workflow that ran for 3 different operating systems at once. One of the big limitations that we had with our other 3 testing mechanisms is that each one of them only runs for a single operating system at a time. At the time, we were running Windows on AppBear, Ubuntu on Travis, and Red Hat 6 or 7, depending, on Jenkins. That being said, we were able to retire AppBear entirely because GitHub Actions actually took over and now tests Ubuntu and Windows and Mac, actually, which we had never tested before. So it was this great big hurrah for us that we are finally regularly testing Mac, which many of our developers actually use. How we felt about it at first is we were worried about having 4 things. So our real goal was we wanted to get it down to 3, because 3 is what we had before. But the kind of great added benefit is that we've got this one script, a single script on GitHub that runs for all 3 of the operating systems. It actually somewhat reduces our maintenance, because now we're running and getting results for more operating systems with just a single file in a single place that doesn't require us to go to different external operators in order to maintain it. We do have a few people on the team, though, who have to maintain it, so there is a little bit of that upkeep of making sure that we know what's new. And, you know, GitHub Actions, I mentioned this, it's very new. The technology is changing all the time. They're getting new capabilities every day, so it's going to be a little bit of an upkeep challenge, even from now.
Yeah, that's good, though. It sounds like you were able to actually reduce your maintenance a little bit overall in adding the new tool. So
yep,
that's great. Aaron, you mentioned in your paper that you're starting to work on the 3rd generation of the auto tester now. Do you anticipate being able to incorporate off-the-shelf CI tools in this 3rd generation? And what do you anticipate that the 3rd generation auto tester itself will be in charge of in this CI testing process?
The 3rd generation auto tester is going to be obviously developed from the ground up with new requirements. We're going to have the stakeholders of the various projects that are using it involved in the requirements analysis. The 3rd-party tools that we're going to be working with is we will probably be using GitHub Actions. We're probably going to be hosting the project on GitHub. And we're going to use GitHub Actions as the CI test platform for the auto tester. It's kind of humorous that the CI tools need CI tools to operate with. Additionally, there are other 3rd-party tools. GitLab has their tools. which are competitive, although different than GitHub Actions. We're going to be integrating with that system, and we'll be using other tools that do like code analysis and linting as necessary. The whole idea with the new auto tester is to make it more of a plug-in driven system rather than a giant monolithic application that is cumbersome and difficult to change for future projects. Generally, we want the projects to have a framework that they can work with and they can plug in the features that they need.
Yeah, okay, great. I think a plugin system would be a lot more maintainable. And I like your approach for gathering requirements and doing more design work up front now that you know that this third generation auto tester has a bigger audience and a bigger scope of what it's being expected to do. That's great.
Right. When we originally started developing the auto tester, it was more of a utility for the SST team. And while that was very functional, more teams came on board and started asking for capabilities that were way beyond the tool. And the challenge there was to expand its footprint and its scope, and that was a massive effort that was completely unanticipated. Had we gone through a design effort up front, we would have probably been able to handle that much cleaner.
So I am guilty of asking for more than what the auto tester could do, but I also think I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about the expanded scope, because it was one of those things that couldn't have been anticipated to take off the way that it did, I don't think, reasonably. And if you do too much of that up front for something that is narrower scope, you may end up sinking a lot of time into that. So the first generation auto tester in a way was
it was a good proof
quick
of concept
prototype. Yeah, even though it was quite a bit of work itself. There's trade-offs between the, get something out the door and see what people think, and doing a full requirements and design effort.
Absolutely.
So one final question, this one's for both of you. What aspects of current CI tool offerings do you feel need to be improved the most? Where are the gaps in what you would like to be doing with CI? Miranda, do you want to go first?
I think that's a good question, and I don't actually know if I have a really good answer to it. I think a lot of CI tools, there's your pros and cons for each one. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. Some of them integrate better, some of them don't. Maybe it would be better if all of them had better integration with your repositories. But like I said, most of them are pretty good about that anyway. So I don't really actually have a good answer.
Aaron?
I see, GitHub has their solution and GitLab has their solution, but crossing the boundary between them is a bit of a challenge. I know that Google is producing solutions that they're advertising. We're not doing a lot right now with CD, constant continuous delivery systems, but that may be something that we need to start looking at in the future. And it's an expansion of the existing architectures that we have right now and available technologies with GitHub and GitLab.
Okay. Do either of you have any final comments or things that you would like to add?
This was a fun project.
I'd like to add that it's always a good idea to reevaluate where you are. Even if you think that you're in a good place, there might be something new out there that can help you be even better, be even more productive, have better development. So it's always a good idea to keep moving forward.
All right. Thank you, Miranda and Aaron, for your time today. And I look forward to the further discussion during the workshop.
Thanks, Jim.
Super. Thank you, Jim.